Let's talk about the Dungeon Delver. Hey everybody, it's Mitch, and welcome to my next video. Today, we've got another Dungeons & Dragons 3.5 Prestige class description for you. And today, coming at you from the Complete Adventurer, we've got ourselves the Dungeon Delver. Alright, so today, what are we going to talk about? We're going to talk about what is the Dungeon Delver. We're going to talk about what it takes to become a Dungeon Delver. We're going to talk about what you get as a Dungeon Delver. And finally, we're going to talk about how good the Dungeon Delver is and how you might use it in a build. So let's get started. First off, what is the Dungeon Delver? These guys are people that are very good at breaking into dungeons. They're good at getting in, getting the loot, and getting out. That's their whole shtick. They're great at getting into places that other people can't. They're just really good at breaking into dungeons and getting the loot. There's not a lot more to say about them. It's pretty simple. They're extremely one-dimensional in that regard. They do tend to spend a lot of time underground, so their backgrounds are generally spent having to do with a lot of underground activity. That's a thing. So only the most skillful adventurers are capable of becoming Dungeon Delvers. Aside from that, there's not much else to say. They're just very skillful and they're very good at breaking in and out of dungeons. Lara Croft from Tomb Raider. She's very much an example, or potentially an example, of a Dungeon Delver. Let's talk about what it takes to become a Dungeon Delver now that we've already talked about what they are. Alright, so first off, they take a lot of skills to get in. They require 10 ranks in Climb, Disable Divide, Open Lock, and Search. They require 5 ranks in Craft Stonemasonry, Hide, Knowledge Dungeoneering, and Move Silently, which is a lot of skills. So you're going to need to eat up a huge number of skill points to get in. Some of which are things you're not going to use a lot, although a lot of them are ones that'll probably be used heavily. It requires 2 feats, both Alertness and Blind Fight. Blind Fight can be extremely useful for this kind of build, so might not be the worst thing in the world. Alertness, that's not a good feat. I mean, it gives a +2 to a couple of skills. Not the best thing in the world. However, the 2 skills it gives a bonus to are some of the best in the game and extremely useful for this class. I'd consider this feat the best of the worst. It's the worst class of feats, but it's the best one of them, so it's a weird one. It also requires the Trap Finding class feature, so you're going to need to be a rogue or something similar. Rogue, Beguiler, Spell Thief, Scout, Ninja, they all get it. You're probably going to need something like that. I think there's a few others that get it as well, but you're going to need one of the rogue-like class to get it. And it has another special requirement, and there's 3 different options for it. The general options all fall under the same umbrella, and that is that they must survive a great trial underground. So 3 of the requirements are they can either do a solo dungeon, gives them enough experience to get halfway to the next level. So depending on what level they are will depend on how much experience they have to get from it, which makes sense. It keeps the challenge the same regardless. One thing, although difficult to pull off, you'll have to actually run a solo dungeon, with good luck getting a DM to let you do that. It's pretty fun when you pull it off, but it's rare you can actually run a solo campaign with the DM for a while. The next is you have to survive a collapse. I mean, it's not the hardest thing, but yeah. And the final one is you have to live for a full year underground without seeing light, which can be big. Easy to throw into a backstory, but nearly impossible to put in the campaign. So basically, if you're going to be playing this, you really want to think about it ahead of time and say, hey, yeah, I lived underground for a year and didn't see the light. Just throw that in your backstory. That'll work. But you're going to have to do that before, session 1, probably. Your DM likely won't let you shoehorn that in later. But I don't see why a DM wouldn't let you put that in your backstory to begin with. Now, the collapse could also be thrown into a backstory. That one's somewhat easy to have happen in the middle of a campaign. Now, the solo dungeon, that one's really can only be done during a campaign, but you're going to need to get a DM to let you play solo for a few sessions, which can be tricky. So this one, getting in's a bit of a trick. You're going to need to plan it out ahead of time, probably. Your best bet is almost certainly go with the third option and have that in your backstory at character creation. So just keep that in mind. Now that we've talked about what it takes to become a Dungeon Delver, let's talk about what you get as a Dungeon Delver. Alright, first up, D6 hit dice. It's okay. You get an average base attack bonus. It's alright, I guess. You get a good fortitude and reflex save, but a bad will save. It's not the greatest, but it's alright. And for skills, you get 8+ int and a pretty solid skill list. Yeah, that's not bad at all. And it does include Use Magic Device, which is big. Pretty good. Can't really complain about it. Now, they also get Dark Vision, which is nice. If they already had Dark Vision, their Dark Vision goes up by 30 feet. And if they didn't have Dark Vision, they gain 60 feet of Dark Vision. That's pretty good. They also gain Deep Survival, which lets them add their class level to their survival check for underground survival checks, which can be very nice if you need to make underground survival checks. So if you're spending a lot of time underground, this can be really helpful. They also get Trap Sense, which is effectively the same thing as a Barbarian's Trap Sense, which it does stack with. They get a +1 at first level and then an additional +1 every 3 levels thereafter. So not bad at all. They gain Reduce, which will let them cast Reduce Person on themselves, and they can do that 3 times per day, and it'll work regardless of what your creature type is. So if you're a type that can't normally be affected by Reduce Person, you can still use it. Pretty nice. At second level, they also gain Stone Cunning, which is mostly exactly the same as the dwarf's racial ability Stone Cunning, with the exception that this isn't a racial bonus. It's a competence bonus, and therefore it stacks with the racial bonus that dwarves get of the same name. So you effectively get a double bonus, which is pretty nice. At third level, they get Augury, initially just once a day, but it does go up. This is a free action use of it, which normally it takes a minute to cast. So this can be really big. You can use it to figure out whether a lot of things will be good or bad. Like a lot of things that normally you wouldn't be able to use Augury on. Like, should I attack this enemy in combat? You know, you'll be able to know whether that's a good move or not. Or, you know, maybe you should have gone with a different attack option or various other things that normally you don't have the time to use Augury to have it be worth your while because it's normally a minute casting time. As a free action, yeah, that changes a lot. Even for things that would be for its normal use can be extremely useful. Third level, they also get Skill Mastery, so 3+ int skills they can take a 10 on, which is quite nice. Skill Mastery is very good. Fourth level, they get Evasion, and if they already had Evasion, that become Improved Evasion, which is just really good. Evasion's one of the best abilities out there. At fifth level, they gain Blind Sense, which can be really useful and stacks very well with their Blind 5 feet that they had to take. Quite solid. At sixth level, they get Pass Wall once a day, which is quite useful. It lets them go through walls if they ever have to, which, you know, to break into a vault, you know, a lot of the times that's where you'll be using it. Pass Wall can be extremely good. Now, 8th level, they get Find the Path twice a day, which can be really nice. What's nice about it is, because it's twice a day, Dungeon Delver can do is they can use it to find the treasure, and then they can use it in order to find their way back out. So they find the path to the treasure room, and then they find the path to get out. And they can even use their Augury before any of this in order to say, should I go into this dungeon today? That'll tell them whether it's even worth going in or not. Like, is this dungeon way overpowered and they're in over their heads? Then they'll know. Is the treasure even there? Well, then they know as well. They wouldn't get the wheel option, which is the good option on Augury. So yeah, those two can combine really nicely. And at 9th level, they get Phase Door once a day, and they get it as an 18th level caster, which means they get 9 uses of it, which by uses, that's how many times you can go in and out, which is a significant number. And also peek in and out, which it's a pretty useful little spell because it lets you just kind of hide in the walls, and you can also go through the wall as well with it. But that is everything that the Dungeon Delver gets. Now let's talk about how good they are and how you might use it in a build. Okay, so how to get in? Well, you can go with Rogue with the feat variant. I would absolutely go with the feat variant over sneak attack since you don't actually get sneak attack. Well, you get it with the Rogue, but you don't get sneak attack with Dungeon Delver. I think that'd be a good option. Another option, potentially better, is to go with Scout because a lot of things that Scout gets work very, very well with the Dungeon Delver. So you could very easily go Scout and then go Dungeon Delver to make someone that's extremely good at stealth, at getting into a dungeon and getting out without combat. Without combat's really the big thing here because these guys, they got nothing for combat. Nothing. Average base attack bonus, no proficiency with any weapons or armor. I mean, they got evasion, but that's about it when it comes to combat. Not really great, which evasion's great in combat, but it's defensive only. It doesn't help on offense. They're not the best. They're more skilled at avoiding conflict and just making it so the enemy never knows they're there. That's where they excel. And Scout can help with that. And on top of that, they don't get any magical abilities to help hide. Just, high skills. I don't know, it's pretty good. So if you're running, a Tomb Raider style game or an Ocean's 11 style game, these guys can be really solid. Or if, the rest of your party is okay with running those style of games and your DM can, adjust the dungeons to be that type instead of just your standard dungeon crawl where people run in and bash enemies. This could be extremely good. But, they're really only in that situation. They also don't get anything to, say they raided a place successfully, got the treasure pressure, got out. But later, the enemies found out that they were there and were like, what to do? Maybe we should attack him. Yeah, they got nothing to protect themselves from that. If the person that they robbed decides to retaliate, they got nothing. Yeah, they're great at breaking in and grabbing treasure and getting out, but if they have to fight anything, they're not so great at that. And on top of that, if the enemy decides to come after them afterwards, they've got no way to defend themselves. They have their issues. They're good at a very specific thing, but that's about it. They're pretty useless outside of their one very specific thing. But anyways, let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. I always love hearing from you. If you enjoyed the video, consider giving it a like. Maybe subscribe to the channel for more D&D 3.5 content. Ring that notification bell so you never miss out on a video. Also, down in the description below, there's a link to my Twitch as well as to my Discord. So check that out and get your rolls. But anyways, as always, I'm Mitch. I'll be seeing you